Gold is on an amazing pump. Silver is playing catch up. Bitcoin is doing Bitcoin things. Money's being printed. Welcome to the crazy world of whiskey and rum. Cool. Well, the long awaited whiskey and rum episode number 5. Now we have a regular whiskey and rum people in the house. I've got to say this, I've been wanting to say this. We have Camel Finance, top left, the double hump, the double hump boy is in the house.
No, that's what I wanted to say. The double hump daddy.
The double hump daddy. The double hump daddy. Get it right, guys.
Dude, when you first said that, I could not stop. I know you was laughing. I was just creasing myself up with laughter.
I found it hilarious.
So yes, top left-hand side, as you're looking at on the screen, we've got the wonderful double hump daddy. I can't even say that without laughing. Camel Finance. It's really great to have you here, Bud. We've got Cobra Stacker. What can I say about Cobra Stacker? A really great mate of mine. Everyone knows who the Cobra Stacker is in the UK stacking gold and silver community. And if you don't, you're living under a rock, but I'm sure you will know now. And becoming an international star as well. So that's a real privilege to be with you two guys. And our very first guest on the series, and that's Darth Precious Metals. So thank you very much for joining us, Darth. I was going to do a silly attempt of doing something like down a glass and like, Cobra, I am your father.
Oh, no.
But that probably sounds really ridiculous, and I've only had half a glass of whiskey. I might try it again later. Anyway, guys, welcome, and really looking forward to this one. There's so much going on out there. I'm going to get straight into it. As we've all recognized, gold and silver has gone ping, as if to say, we are here. All of a sudden, quite for me as an experience, I haven't experienced that sort of move at gold and silver level. Bitcoin's doing Bitcoin things. Love that. That's pinched from Camel Finance. And the markets are crazy to try and understand for a mere apprentice that I am. So I just want to kick it off. What the heck is going on, guys? What's your take on it? And I'm going to go to Camel with this one first.
I don't know. It's a wild time to be alive, bro. That's all I know.
It is, dude. It is, dude.
It's so wild. And I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and we've moved into this strange realm where I no longer trust the data. I am slowly but surely just throwing all of my macro understanding or knowledge in the bin. Things are just behaving in strange ways. Even the cycle lows are getting shallower and shallower, which is unusual. I was saying in a members video today that it's unusual to see this kind of strength, and we're sort of being forced to adapt to that by sort of what's the word, disrespecting some of the sell signals and giving them extra room. I think that's the way to put it. We're giving sell signals extra room because the bid underneath the market is so unusually strong. And normally when you would get a sell signal, you would sell, but they're just getting bought up. All the dips are buyable at the moment, and nothing makes any sense at all. But the less you think about it, the more it seems to work. So if you just say numbers going up, then numbers going up, right?
Absolutely. It's mad. It is absolutely mad. And Cobra, in your field, I'm sure you're experiencing some very weird things going on.
Absolutely. It's complicated my world totally, to be very honest. It's a great thing in one sense. So for my personal stack and the gold and silver that I collect, it's absolutely amazing. I feel there's value in what I've done, and it's increasing in its actual net worth. But in the side of the auctions and buying and selling as a dealer, let's say, I'm not a dealer, but buying and selling as a dealer, it's opened the doors to me understanding how dealers work now and why it can be so hard for them to sell things at certain prices. But I'm sure we'll discuss that a bit more at some point. But yes, really opened my eyes to how this sort of stuff works when the prices go up and down so much, or up really at the moment.
Yeah, definitely up, up, up. And very quickly, Darth, if you can give us a perspective from someone that's interested from just a stacking collecting point of view, are you finding this what's going on in the precious metals marketplace confusing, or making you second think, oh, what do I do next? Or is it just norm as norm for you?
Yeah, so I think I want to say it's normal, but from one particular point of view, the world has changed, and from that particular point of view, because we cannot look back and do or analyze things the way we analyzed not even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. There's no point saying we can't look in the back. I think nowadays that saying that, what was it? History is repeating itself. I don't know. That's my big concern. I don't think history is repeating itself. I think it rhymes a little bit.
Yeah.
So in terms of looking into things, what's going on with gold and silver, with the data, with the narrative that's out there, a bit of misinformation, fake data, and so on and so on. I think we need to set our mind into some kind of new looking,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah.
That sort
So
of
we
makes
need
sense.
we need to look to the future. We'll try. I'm trying personally. I'm trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much. I think we need to hold on to the fact that history can rhyme, not repeating itself really, and just observing and looking forward. But yeah, as a stacker and collector, more of a collector really for me. But like I said, as a stacker and collector, yeah, we should be really a little bit careful, just watching, observing. Nothing happens. There's no alarms here. Just be cool, watch, observe, learn, and take the next step. Really easy.
Wicked.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because that brings me into like opening it up to the floor to Cobra and Camel, really, because guys, what do you think's going on now? And I know, Camel, you obviously this is a professional business for you, and I can't even imagine. Well, I can try and imagine a little bit of how you operate, but you know far more than me. You obviously base a lot of things, I presume, on sometimes the past to a degree, but I know you look at day to day. Is that becoming increasingly difficult, and why do you think that is? Is that because of something that maybe we haven't experienced before, and now we're going to go through something new, or have we experienced this sort of thing before, but this time it's at a different level to what's happened before? I just want to know your take on it, really. You and Cobra.
I think everything just keeps getting more and more extreme, right? Like we had the printing in the C19 era. I mean, they created something like 80% of the entire monetary base in 18 months. I think we were close to $6 or $7 trillion by the end of it that they printed. And it's just getting more and more extreme. The next time they have to do a big round of QE like that, it's probably going to be 10 or 20 trillion. And the analogy is like a drug addict, right? Like the more drugs they take, then the more they need to get the same fix. And it's very much the same with the money, right? The more you print it and debase it, the more you've got to do next time around.
Yeah.
Nothing is really like, people like to say this time is, there's this old saying, right? This time is never different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to misuse that and say, well, this time is different. And then it turns out after a while that actually it wasn't different at all. But if you look at Bitcoin, like Bitcoin took out its all-time high for the first time in its history before the halving. Like that is different. That's undeniably different. If you look at the stock market, I don't even know the numbers, but I'm trying to pull up a chart whilst I talk. We must have done 30 or 40% last year for the S&P 500, right? I mean, that's not nothing. That's completely out of the blue. I'm just pulling the chart up now as we speak. For the year, you know, we did a good 30% last year, and to date we're up 40% from the beginning of 2023. So again, that's not nothing. These aren't regular moves for the S&P 500. We're adding trillions and trillions, and then you've got things like Nvidia, the Nvidia chart that just went straight up for months and months and months. It went from like $100 to $1,000. Huge market caps. Like nothing is ordinary this time around. And I think it's just getting, like I said earlier, it's getting increasingly difficult to stay on top of it because nothing really makes sense anymore.
I think, Camel, I think your analogy there was actually absolutely spot on. You know, like the thing is, they're doing the same pattern again and again and again of printing more money to pay the interest, to deal with things and all that lot. And all that's happening on that side of it is the pressure's building more and more and more. And it's not a matter of fear mongering to say, you know, we are fiat currency wise, in my opinion, heading towards a cliff. At what stage, I don't know, whether it's a year, 2 years, 5 years, but we're heading towards a cliff. And I think people who are into this sort of game in one way or another are starting to understand that there is a limit. And as you say, to have a print again going at 20 trillion, you know, the debt, I mean, I'm talking about America, is what, 31 trillion at the moment? Maybe more.
No, it's more 34 trillion, isn't it?
Right. So 34 trillion to then go and print another 20 trillion. You know, this is no joke. We're looking at nigh on half of what the national debt is of America at the moment being reprinted straight away. And then what's that going to affect? It's going to affect inflation. So all the things that it will affect are negative, from what I can see. And then as far as it goes to precious metals like gold and silver as well, that just pushes them up because people will start to worry about what's going on.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, guys, if you want to just reflect on and move on with that, that's absolutely fine. I'll let you.
Well, I think it's worth pointing out here. We've got $34.5 trillion in debt, but that is funded debt. That's funded debt in the US. I've got the debt clock in front of me. The unfunded is 214 trillion. It's 214 trillion in unfunded liabilities. And that's things that people are relying on, like healthcare, pensions, right? Medicare, Medicaid, all of that stuff is $214 trillion. So it's a house of cards, right? There's no way to service this debt apart from massive amounts of inflation. Like I said, you know, they're going to have to print in extreme amounts. And after the 10 or 20 trillion, who knows what the next time around will be? 40, 50 trillion, probably. I mean, it's a ticking time bomb. It's a house of cards. The thing that's always difficult is it's easy to look at this and go, well, that's a house of cards. It's got to collapse. But it can always go on longer than people think, right? Because they just have this unlimited supply of money that they can tap into whenever they need to. But
the problem is, isn't it the people that it's going to affect? Because as inflation goes up and up and up, obviously inflation is like a tax. It's a tax on the people. And it's us like who have to pay for this debt in one way or another, but we can't catch up with it, and we'll never catch up with it. So the more they do, the more they put us in more financial difficulty, until it's a point that the general people can't cope with it no more. Or am I misunderstanding that side of it?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is what we're seeing now. And I think gold is the canary in the coal mine for this, right? Gold always knows something. It doesn't break out to new all-time highs and start flying to the upside for no reason, right? Gold always knows something. They've kept this thing suppressed for as long as they could so as not to alert people. But now they clearly are unable to keep it suppressed anymore. It's clearly breaking free. It's clearly moving up. And that is because gold knows that more printing is coming, right? Gold knows there's no other way to service the debt. They are going to have to print. And ultimately, you know, think about in the last 4 years, we got a really, really unique snapshot of inflation because of the amount they did during the pandemic, right? That 6, or it might have been 9 trillion that they printed. I think it was close to 6, but they printed at least $6 trillion, and food prices have doubled, quadrupled all over the place. Everyone knows, right? Everyone has felt this. It doesn't matter how rich you are. Everyone has at least noticed that everything has gone up 4 or 5 times to what it was in 2018 or 2019. And so that's going to continue, right? As they start to print more money, as they're forced to do the next QE bomb, whether that's in months or a year's time is to be determined. But at some point, they're going to have to do it. And when they do, you know, it would be ludicrous to expect a different outcome other than exactly what we all went through in terms of inflation during the pandemic, but this time a lot worse. You know, if you think not, you know, somewhere between $6 and $9 trillion was bad, if you think that drove prices up and the cost of living up, then wait till you see what 20 trillion does, right? And you are absolutely right. Yes, it is going to really, really harm people. The tinfoil hat side of me likes to think, or has a tendency to think, that this is probably a controlled demolition on purpose to usher in CBDCs at the end of it. And ultimately, I've said this before, there's going to be the have-yots and the have-nots, right? There's the people that have assets, the people that hold the gold, the people that hold Bitcoin and the stocks and whatever else you hold, right? Some kind of asset, even if it's property, well, currency gets debased against that and the asset price increases in dollar value or in pound value. But if you don't have any assets, right, then you just have to keep having your cost of living going up all the while your wage is not even close to keeping up. And thus you slowly but surely get bled dry. You slowly but surely get poorer and poorer. And we've seen that condensed into just a 4-year period. You know, if you think back to just 2018, 2019-ish, even 2020, things weren't so bad, right? Most people were doing okay, at least relative to today. And now we fast forward just 4 years and many people are struggling. I'm sure you can appreciate that. I'm sure you know people around you in your community and stuff that you can see the deterioration. And unfortunately, the harsh reality is it's only going to get worse as they have to print more and more money each time.
Well, the problem is it's you know, it's obvious which way it's going, and I absolutely agree that with your statement of being a controlled demolition, because at the end of the day, they know what's going on. They know which way it can go, and it can only go one way. And yet, probably not through even choice, just through necessity, they have to carry on with this. Now, we all know, and you know, I don't talk about CBDCs in a way of it being a conspiracy theory or whatever else. It's a reality that governments all over the world are looking at another system. And we even see with our government advertisements for jobs in the market of CBDCs for the government. So we know it's going this way. What worries me is how the transition will come about and how disruptive it will be to the common man. Because this is not going to be a simple move. They will make it that you have to go into CBDCs, you have to take them on. But it won't be a simple transition, I don't think. I think this is going to be a bit chaotic. And as I say, this is not fear-mongering. It's just, this is a massive change, and a lot of people are not going to be prepared in any way, shape, or form for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And there's no way, if you think about it like this, right? If they come out today and say, oh, we're just going to replace the pound with a digital pound or Bitcoin, and we're just going to replace it with that. And here's the deal. You can just willingly accept it. And it's going to have all these potentially tyrannical controls, lack of privacy. We can program it to expire. So we'll put it in your account. And then if you don't spend it within X amount of time, whether it's 2 months or 2 weeks, then it expires. And this might sound ludicrous if you've never heard of this stuff before, but that literally is what happens in China today. That already happens. They pay the CBDC in, and if you don't spend it on consumables to prop up the economy within a couple of weeks, it vanishes into thin air. So you can also go and verify this for yourself. If you pull up the white paper for any CBDC of any country and then do a Control F to find a word, and if you search for the word in that document, something like expiration or expiry, you will see that every single one of them has been coded with an expiry option, with a function that makes that money vanish if you do not spend it within a set amount of time. So it's not conspiracy. It really is the real world. And there's, like you said, there's no way that they can introduce this and people will just willingly say, yeah, okay, I'll have that. No problem. Right. And also they can product lock it. So they can say, Cobra, you're not allowed to eat meat this week. Okay. We
Mm.
want you to eat plants because this is bad for the environment. We need you to eat bugs and plants. And when you go to spend your CBDC at the butchers, it will decline and say, no, it's product locked. You can only spend it on other stuff. Again, this is not conspiracy. This is not theory. This is not this is inside the white papers. You can go and pull the white paper up for any country and it says all of this is in there. They can do this product lock-in. They fully intend to do this product lock-in. And so nobody is going to willingly accept that. They are going to need to tear the system down. They are going to need to inflate the currencies to make people essentially beg for it. People are going to need to suffer to a point where they will willfully say, oh, please, please, please give me the CBDC, because the CBDC at this point is better than the current situation these people are in. And
but doesn't this stop people from saving any sort of money in any way, shape, or form? How can you ever improve yourself if whatever finances you're using will expire? As in, I can't save up to get a house. I can't save up to do anything because mine will expire if I don't use it.
Yeah, that's right. And it says in all the white papers that most of them will have negative interest rates, meaning you have to pay the bank for the pleasure of keeping your money with the bank. You have to pay for that privilege. And many of them are specifically have wording in there that says you are only allowed to have a maximum of £2,000 or £3,000 equivalent saved. And any more than that is deemed hoarding and thus not stimulating the economy, and thus, again, will be subject to expiration if you don't spend it. So this is real. And if you don't believe this or you're shocked by this, I implore you to go and read the white papers. You just type in UK CBDC or US CBDC or whatever the country is and read the white paper, search for the white paper. It's all in there and it's all made abundantly clear that this is absolutely a possible reality. And this is absolutely what they are driving to push.
So the top will stay at the top and the average person will always be on the bottom forever and a day. I mean, the only way out is what, in your opinion? Get into assets, have assets, and then when you sell those assets, will that CBDC expire?
It's a very good question, and it's one I don't have all the answers for. It's likely that this system will work on some kind of voluntary basis where they will say to you, you know, person A that has no assets and no ability to say no, loads of debt perhaps, and can't pay their bills, can't put food on the table. For those people, they'll probably offer them some kind of deal. Like, here, if you take the CBDC, we'll forgive some of this debt, or, you know, we won't take your house from you, we'll let you live in there or rent it from us. And in exchange for this, we'll give you a sweetener for signing up to the CBDC program. We'll give you $2,000 or $3,000. And most people in that, you know, when they're really struggling, will be, oh, thank goodness I can have $3,000 or 3,000 whatever pounds, and they can move on from there, right? That will be better than starving to death and having all of this debt. And then I think there'll be another class of people who don't have lots of debt and have some assets, and they'll have the ability to say no. Now, it does raise a question of what if they completely remove all fiat and we only have the CBDC, then how do you sell into it? That's a complicated question. For me, that's where cryptocurrency comes in. And yeah, like I said, I don't have all the answers. There's also another idea behind this, another popular idea is that they will frame it as some kind of cyber attack on the banking system. And they'll say, oh, so whether it's North Korea or Russia, whoever they blame, they'll say there was a cyber attack and these people are responsible and all your money's gone. But don't worry, we're going to replenish it. We're going to give you the CBDCs, and as a sweetener, we'll give you £2,000 or £3,000, which for most people, they'll go, oh, thank you. I'm so grateful, right? And maybe it'll come with a UBI, the universal basic income, where everyone gets £1,000 a month or 1,500 quid a month, whatever it is. And most people will be jumping for joy to receive this. This is the harsh reality and a horrible truth. Most people will be more than pleased to say, oh yeah, you're going to give me £2,000 and 1,500 quid a month to do nothing. Please give me the CBDC. But of course, they will be walking into this absolute hellhole of tyranny. And I think I said to you last time we spoke, Cobra, that the way I see this playing out is I assume they're going to launch this attack with the intention of gaining 100% control. And I don't think it's going to work, but they will end up with 10, 15, 20% control. And that's where that whole have-nots and have-yachts comes in, right? That's where I think we're going to see a massive wealth divide. People that have assets and the ability to say no and no debt, they are going to be able to, for the most part, continue on with their lives, I believe, whilst the people
But
at the
how?
bottom.
How? I mean, if
Can I-
the whole system goes to CBDCs, and even if you've got assets, but you can't easily sell them or do anything with them, and to buy anything else, you need the CBDCs. In the end, you're going to be brought down just like everyone else. And all I see is that people will end up rioting, because I don't see how this could work. As in, people are going to have had enough of it at some point. In the beginning, it'll all look smooth and nice, but as it goes on, we're already slaves to the system, but we'll become more slaves to the system. We'll be so tied up in it that we can't do nothing.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. And it's entirely possible that it goes to a barter system. It's also possible that they don't manage to fully get rid of all fiat. That's entirely possible as well. And that we end up in this dualistic system in which you've got CBDCs and some fiat currency. And America have been quite open about this, that that's what they want. They want this sort of dual nature where they've got fiat alongside the CBDCs. Is their plan for later in the decade to have 100% CBDCs? Probably. But I think, as I said to you last time we spoke as well, you know, they're going to need a lot of politicians and a lot of the military and everyone else that's sort of protecting the country and enforcing these laws. They're going to need these people to walk into that blindly. And I don't believe that's why they're going to be able to pull it off. I don't think they're going to be able to, because people are going to start to clock, you know, like, this is not good for me or my family. Why would I pass this law? Right. So I don't think it's going to fully work. I imagine that we end up with a fiat currency system and a CBDC system. And I imagine the people that are forced onto the CBDCs will willfully accept it and be very regretful later in life. It's always possible that we end up in this system where we end up with Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency that functions. You know, if it, let's assume it all reprices massively higher, then people will be willing to earn Bitcoin from the Bitcoin holders, right? So maybe it goes to more of a peer-to-peer system. I wish I had the answers. All
I
I
don't
know
think
is
anyone does.
no, but all I know in the meantime is I'm trying to do my best to accumulate hard assets that I can bear myself with no counterparty risk. And the rest is in God's hands, to be honest.
Okay, guys, can I just jump in here?
Yeah.
Because I'm absolutely like loving this already. You loving listening to this stuff?
Oh, so there's so many things I want to say. But
Yeah, you can do a bit later on. I just like, you're loving
go
this.
on. Yeah, I do.
Good. Guys, I just want to jump in here because we've gone from a little bit of euphoria at the beginning, like with everything going up, and then we've gone right into a dark subject.
There you
They're
go.
one and the same thing.
100%. And we've jumped into it, and I'm sure I'm just sitting on the fence here, trying to think. Now, I'm sure people that are going to watch this are all different stages of interest in educating themselves. Maybe some people have never heard of whatever you're talking about, but from the conversation, what is Darth doing? For the conversation, you know, we've gone into a pretty dark place, which is fine, absolutely cool. What I was going to ask you, Camel, is for people at whatever level of their journey of interest into, you know, Bitcoin, silver, gold, whatever, are there any recognizable things that they can keep an eye out to start to think, yes, that makes sense. I'm going to, you know, do a little bit more of a deep dive educational thing on that. Have you seen any pointers? Have you seen any indicators that are starting to show us that this is a early stage, late stage, middle stage? Do you get my drift of what I'm trying to say?
Not exactly, no, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
What I know you were asking me if I can recommend people research certain things, but I'm not sure entirely about
No,
what.
it's when you sit here listening to that, oh my God, we're going to a dark place. Fine, great, cool. I get that. But will it be a dark place? But primarily what would hope most people will do is try to understand and educate and protect themselves against possibly going to that position later on, down the line, however long it's going to take. But part of that educational process is recognition of things happening in the financial system to give us little indicators to say, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, I see that happening now. To then make you educate yourself to jump into the next stage of learning, to give yourself confidence to say, yeah, I need to invest in this or buy this or do the whatever.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're talking about the most extreme outcomes,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
I don't think there's no point pretending like that's not a possibility. And
exactly.
it's no point pretending like that's not a very real system that they are in the middle of putting in place and do ultimately want to try to launch. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll be successful. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. In terms of educating yourself, if you don't know what CBDCs are, like I said, you must read the white papers. And I've got plenty of videos on my channel where I go through the white papers and point at those. So I'm sure if you type CBDC into my YouTube channel, you'll be able to find some of that. I would say once you've learned about that, then you start to realize some of the solution to the problem is holding assets that carry no counterparty risk. And some of that will involve things like Bitcoin or physical gold and silver. I mean, at the same time as I know and understand all of this happens, if you look at where my money is, I have money in trading accounts, I have money in long-term portfolios. So it's not like I've decided CBDCs are coming and thus I need to pull all my money out of the system, right? I have a significant amount of my net worth in outside of the system, but I still use the system day to day. I still have to spend fiat because I prefer to spend fiat than Bitcoin, and most places don't accept Bitcoin yet. Ultimately, I just think the more you learn, the easier it becomes for you to make your own decisions. And there are some people that are so far more extreme than me. I know people that they are, stockpiling food. I mean, I have some food stockpiled. I have done for years, but I know some people that are convinced that Armageddon and the end of the world is coming within months, and they are moving out of cities to go and live in the countryside. And maybe that's something I would consider as well if I didn't already live in the country. But I mean, to each their own, right? You get to put in your own research and then come to your own conclusion. Like I said, you should probably learn about the CBDCs and then how to have some money outside the system, how to have things with no counterparty risk. I would personally not want to be in a situation where I had loads of debt. And as I was saying, I think I made a video a couple of days ago on my channel where people were saying, oh, World War III is coming. And I kind of just laughed it off and said, no, it isn't, right? Like, and if it is, we'll deal with it when it comes. But I choose not to live in that fear state. And we may well have come across like we took it to a dark place. But for the most part, I remain wholly positive. I clearly do have some trust left in the system. Otherwise, I would pull my money out of all my trading accounts, right? Out of all my stock accounts. So yeah, I think like one day at a time, as always.
Yeah, I must apologize because I didn't mean a dark place, as in dark. What I meant from what I said, I need to communicate this better, is some people may listen to this that have no idea. And they think, oh my God, the world is falling in. When you're listening to the crux of what CBDCs could be, like total domination, control, that might be a big surprise to people. So
yeah, that's
why I said a dark place.
If I may hop in here,
of course.
During the events of the last 4 years that spread around the world, there was people that thought that was the end of the world. There's people that thought 90% of the population would die, and there was people that thought things that came thereafter would put most people in an early grave and whatever. And the reality is, I think for not just the last 4 years, not just for the future years to come, but in general, humans have this way of assuming the worst will play out, right? You have people at both extremes. You have some people that go, it's nothing, right? The pandemic will be over in 3 months, right? I used to hear that a lot. I'll be over in a few weeks. And those people right at the other extreme end of the curve saying, this is it. 90% of the population's dead. We're never going to make it, right? The sky is falling. And the reality is, we ended up somewhere in the middle, right? It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't nearly as severe as most people thought it was. I thought it personally, it was going to be way worse than it was. I really was in the camp of people that thought it was going to be a lot more devastating than what we actually saw. And I would imagine CBDCs and anything else going forward is going to be the same. There's always going to be people that say, they're going to have 100% control over everyone and blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be people that aren't even aware of CBDCs. I typically fall in the middle of that category. As I said, I think they're going to try and I think they're going to fail. I think some people are going to be nastily impacted by that. But I think for the most part, if you have some wealth and not a lot of debt, you're probably going to be able to be okay.
I totally agree on that. I'm going to give it a flip side from the dark side, as we say. Darth will love that. But I'll give it a flip side from the dark side. There's always been doomsayers on so many things. Even when radios were introduced, radio waves will kill everyone, this, that, and the other. There's so many conspiracies and all that. But taking it on a flip side, I do believe that they have to create a society or a way to live that people are going to benefit from it as well, because they don't want a negative reaction. Remember, at the same time as they want maybe a slight bit more control, they have to have us on side, because without us as the workers and all that lot, the whole economy and everything falls down. So it has to be done in a way that society can live in a happy state. A good example or analogy for it, if you've seen it, is the Matrix. You had the machines who wanted to control people, couldn't control them just that easily, their minds. So they put them in pods and fed them all the stuff they want to see, or the way to live that they want to see. And so people let it carry on. They have to create something which fits everyone and you can live a happy life, shall we say. Otherwise, there will be total riots and everything from it. So, yes, we were going to the extreme of how it could really be bad, but there has to be a system that works and people are happy to go with that system.
Yep. And humans are not designed to live in cages. Humans will not tolerate living in cages for extended periods of time. And any historical tyrannical attempt has always resulted in revolution.
Yes.
Well, that's really cool, because that's just brought a bit more balance to the conversation.
Sorry, CPM.
Yeah, no, dude. Please do not say sorry. The whole point, my personal feelings.
Yeah.
But try and when I'm hosting something, I have to try and think of everybody that could be watching. And
we took it so far south. So
we did.
Yeah, but
the
thing is, it went so quick.
Yeah.
It went so quick.
We can bring it back. We can bring it back.
No, that's absolutely cool. It's absolutely cool. So yeah, I'm doing my job, and obviously, Darth might enjoy the dark side more. Do you enjoying the dark side more, Darth?
Well, I enjoy the dark side. This fits perfectly.
Yeah.
With me. I started my channel with the name of Darth Stacker, right? On a dark side, and so on and on, stacking on a dark side. I know you know what I'm trying to get, but purely because all of Camel and Cobra said, when I don't think I obviously I don't know it all, but I had this feeling this is going to happen. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do a channel, and I'm going to be Darth Stacker, as in I'm going to try to get out the message out there with a personal opinion, just a personal opinion, and hopefully people are going to get an idea, a possible exit from all of this. But I was, if that's okay, I don't know, I was going to sort of go back a little bit, and is in a very straight line direction with what I said in the beginning. Let's try and leave the past behind. I don't think the history is going to repeat itself. I think it will rhyme. So that being said, some elements are going to come again, but then there's the new element. What I was going to say really is, for example, if you look on Gov UK on all the papers of CBDC, yeah, Camel and Cobra was absolutely right. Actually, there's stipulated in there a maximum amount of CBDC pounds that you can have from a total year in savings, and that amount is 5,000. Okay, 5,000 CBDC. That's all you can save. If you don't spend them after 1 year, they're gonna. It doesn't say what they're gonna happen with them. But on the Chinese style, they're gonna expire. So there you go.
So
Now,
can I just jump in there, Darth? So obviously you've read that white paper, which is so much more than me. So what you're saying is there's a ton of information on what they're proposing, just like Camel said on this white paper. So it sounds like that's really something that people, if they're interested in and want to educate themselves on, they need to go and read. Would that be right? Because it's obviously made a difference for you.
yeah, it did. It did. And I don't know when was the year when it came out, but it came out in pieces and it's changed since 2020. It changed a little bit in 2021, and it's still changing today. So it's a document that is changing commas, let's say commas, right? Which will mean different things. But yeah, that's the point.
Great stuff. Thank you, buddy. So the information's out there. So yeah, it always comes down to educating ourselves as always. So let's see if we can lighten up the experience a little bit more. Who's excited about the gold and silver price going up?
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Obviously, you guys know that I built up gold from a young age with jewelry and all that lot. So I have quite a bit of gold jewelry, which is 22 carat. And then obviously when I got into stacking, I started buying the bullion gold and all that lot. So the increase is lovely in that way. It's absolutely brilliant. But it also puts another side where it's like, oh, now it's so much to buy it. And so I think it takes it down to fractionals now. I think a lot of people are buying, including myself. I think you're right. I don't know if I can keep buying at the rate I was in ounces. So I'm starting to go on to smaller bits of gold, but still taking on the gold. And the nice thing is there's so many exciting bits of gold out there as well. It's not just your basic bullion gold. But I think we're going to see a lot more over the next few months and maybe years, or at least 1 or 2 years of an increase in gold. I think we're just starting our journey with gold increasing at such a rate.
Definitely. Camel, I've got to ask you this question.
Yep.
Just noticed you muted yourself then. I'm thinking, has he muted himself totally? Does he even know I'm saying anything?
No, it's just my microphone.
Oh, that's cool. Dude, I know you've been talking up gold quite a bit on your channel recently.
Yep.
I've got to ask this question. When you say gold knows, when you're talking about gold knows what's going on.
Yep.
I've always wondered who is gold?
Gold doesn't go up for no reason.
Absolutely.
So that's what I mean when I say gold knows something. And really it's not gold that knows, it's big money, it's institutions, it's central banks. That's really what it really, instead of saying gold knows, I should say central banks know. That's what I should be saying. But as a trader, obviously I focus on the charts, and if you can, it's a really good rule of thumb. Gold is the one market that doesn't break out to new all-time highs for no reason. So it breaks out to new all-time highs because they can't keep a lid on it anymore. And if they can't keep a lid on it anymore, that tells you that something is coming.
Yeah, and this is, do you know, I asked that stupid question earlier on, about indicators.
Yeah.
This is what I meant. You know, if people understand the indicators, you know, and which is why I just asked you that question. Gold isn't just a metaphorical. Well, gold knows. It's just a physical piece of metal out in the middle of the desert has suddenly decided to change the marketplace. It's obviously the people around that's buying gold or getting into gold. And obviously that's a great indicator for anyone, I presume. Is it this is what I've learned from you and your channel, is trying to understand what is actually going on and why people are doing it, which is why I asked that question earlier.
I think gold is the canary in the coal mine. That's what
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Like gold, that's what I mean by gold knows something. Gold doesn't do what it's doing at the moment for no reason. It doesn't do it because it's not stock, right? It's not doing it because it thinks there's going to be more revenue increase coming in the not too distant future,
Yeah.
or because it got some news that came out that says the company's doing better than people realized. It's not just something like that. Gold is breaking out now because central banks are repricing it higher,
Yeah.
and they are repricing it higher for a reason, and that reason is likely that they know a massive round of inflation is coming.
Can I just say something there? It's a very, very good point, CPM, that you raised there. And I've heard Camel say it many, many times, gold knows. And it always put a smile on my face because I thought exactly what you said. It's not actually that gold knows, but countries are buying in gold in massive amounts. Banks are stocking up on gold reserves in massive amounts. And so it's exactly what you said. It's the people up there who know that things are going a certain way and that gold is going to be needed in a very, very big way. And that is why it's being bought up at such a rate, which is also putting the price up. So when you say gold knows, it means the people at the top know things are happening and they need gold to back them at the moment. And I think it's very important that sometimes we watch what they do and follow in suit in a way, you know. So if we see that all the big people and all the big banks and countries are buying gold, there's a reason for it, which could be beneficial to us as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, 100%. So, and that's one of the greatest. I'm going to blow smoke up Camel's backside now. Sorry, dude. This is one of the things why I've learnt so much from Camel's channel personally, because it's made me so think outside the box. As Cobra said, I've always listened and I thought, what do they mean when they say gold knows, Bitcoin knows, this knows, that knows? And I'm thinking, who is it? Who is it? But that's the indicators that that say to me, okay, I need to find out who this is. Why is this? You know, and that's taken me on different educational paths to try and understand why people do this, why people do that, backed up by the constant, continuous. I'm going to really blow smoke up. Beautiful information that Camel provides after time. You know.
I think if anyone hasn't watched Camel's channel, they really need to, because it is a constant. And yeah, I'll do the same here. Camel, you put out so many videos each week with every movement that goes on, and really showing every small little movement and the possibilities of why and the possibilities of where it would go. It's very beneficial. And again, that's your opinion, but it just gives us all an idea to see where things are going and why they're going. So yeah, I mean, it's a real eye opener to watch that channel constantly. Every single one, sit there, listen to it, and they're nice and short, 10-15 minutes, but it really opens your eyes to where things are going and gives you a bit of backup on what you're doing.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just try to. It's an ever evolving space, right? I mean, I think a really good example is it must have been no more than 3 months ago. I made a video saying, "What if gold breaks out?" Right,
Yeah.
and that breakout turned out to be a fake out. And I remember posting a video and I said, "Look, if this goes now, then gold knows something, right?" And I said, "Or maybe it rolls over and it takes a little bit more time and then it goes." And it turned out to be that latter option. But yeah, all you can really do is stay on top of it. And these days, particularly, it's important to check in every day, I think, and it's important to keep an eye because things change really quickly. And you know, like for an example, we went from having a bank term funding program, which is, you know, this QE disguised as a loan program for banks. We went from that expired. And then within a couple of weeks, they launched the Operation Reverse Twist, where they're buying one end, I forget which way around it is, they're buying the short end of the treasuries and selling the long end. And, you know, it's another form of QE in disguise. But again, by staying on top of it every day, by keeping open to all possible outcomes, then when gold finally does break out, we're able to, because I was looking to short gold. There was a weekly cycle low coming up, and I was saying, I'm probably going to short gold here. It should roll over
remember
into a
that.
weekly cycle low. And then all of a sudden it puts in a sneaky weekly cycle, breaks the all-time high. And I was like, well, it's spoken, right? Time to get long. And then luckily for me, I managed to get long in time. And, you know, that's the benefit of tuning in every day and taking it one day at a time. I also think it's impossible to know what's going to happen in 6 weeks, and people often are like, what do you think is going to happen in 6 months, or what do you think happens in 2028? I'm like, bro, I don't know what happens in 6 days, let alone 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years.
I
But
think you should though.
yeah, it'd be nice, isn't it? It'd be nice and it'd be easy. But yeah, one day at a time is an advantage over the market. You know, if you just accept that you got to show up every day and see what's going on and know where your invalidation is, and if you've not been invalidated, then we proceed to the next day, and that really does give you an advantage, and it can be massively helpful.
Can I ask you a question on that though? You know, or I understand, and I'm sure as a lot of people watch, they'll understand more. I understand why gold's going up. You know, the reasons we've discussed, the possibilities or inevitability, should I say, of a massive print of money, and therefore we know that sort of thing's going to happen. Why are we seeing silver go up? What is the reason that silver's shooting up quite substantially, really, for the percentages? What makes silver go? Because it's not countries or banks hoarding up on silver.
I don't know if this is true, but this has always been my belief. My belief is that when gold breaks out, silver kind of watches from the side. And then I call it giving permission. I say gold needs to give permission to silver to go. And I think what happens is, like you said, all the reasons we mentioned, gold's breaking out, right? They can't keep a lid on it anymore. It's the canary in the coal mine. Gold's breaking out. And you'll notice when gold first broke out, it took a full daily cycle. It took like 22, 24 days before silver even considered breaking out.
Yep.
And then after a full daily cycle, gold continues to proceed higher, and it gives permission to silver. It says to silver, you know, you can go now. This is a real bull market. And then you see silver bid. So my interpretation has always been that silver is like the trading instrument, right? So gold breaks out because of the central bank reasons, but then traders like me say, oh, this gold bull market is for real. That's a full daily cycle. It's still moving higher. Well, do I want to be in gold in terms of trading? I'm not talking about holding spot or coins or anything like that. I'm talking about as a trader, do I want to take gold or do I want to take silver? Silver will give me more percentage returns and it will follow gold's move. So if gold's move is for real, which I currently believe it is, then silver is now been given permission for me to speculate on. And thus, by speculating on silver, I should get more return in my trading account than just taking spot gold. And then it goes one level beyond that because in the member section, we decided to play silver junior miners, which is even higher beta, right? Even more risk, even more upside potential, even more downside potential. But again, it was like, if this gold bull market is for real, it will give silver permission for the trade, or said another way, it will give traders permission to say, okay, let's hop into silver and take more percentage out of the market. And then an even higher risk reward trade is to play the junior silver miners. So you can hop in there again as a trader and say, well, if gold is going up, then it will drag silver up with it. And if silver's going up, it will drag the silver junior miners up with it. So that's how I've always seen it. I don't think it's the same beast as gold. I mean, I'm sure central banks probably have some allocation to silver, but I don't think they're panic buying silver because it's going to form the new monetary base after the reset and whatever they've got planned.
Not at all.
That's
But
what
then,
they
is this
gold.
why it's more?
Cobra,
Yeah, sorry.
Could I just cut in 1
course.
second there? Can I just say to the audience that's watching, the last question that Cobra asked about silver and Camel's answer, replay it, because the information and what's just been exchanged there in information is a game changer to how you see things. Sorry, Cobra, go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, is this why we see that silver is more volatile then? Because it is people jumping in and out of it with shorts and longs as they watch what gold is doing. And in other words, do we see that gold will maybe at a slow rate or at a bigger rate increase at a more consistent level, but silver will go up and down as people jump in and out of it as a trading asset?
Yeah, it really is like, it really is just a way to extract more profit from a trading account, right?
Right.
Now, there's a whole different story here. If say you've got two guys, right? Person one has plenty of money and can afford to buy multiple ounces of gold at a time without, sweating too much, right? That's person one. And then person
Yeah.
two might be a younger person that doesn't have a lot of money, but recognizes the problems with the system and just wants to make a start in investing. And they might choose, well, I can afford £30 for an ounce of silver, right? I can afford to buy an ounce of silver or a silver coin. I'm not talking about those kinds of people, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about the people that are buying physical metals to hold for the longer term and as an exit to the system that carries no counterparty risk. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people like me in terms of take away all of my precious metal holdings, take away all of the long-term portfolio, just think of Camel as the trader. What I see is gold break out to new all-time high first. That's the first thing. And I go, oh, okay, that's a breakout. Now, do I immediately think time to buy silver, time to buy miners? No. I want the market to prove to me that this is the time to buy gold. So first of all, I respect the gold breakout. We let that play out. Now, as always, it can go up and it can go down. If it goes down, then I would be saying to myself, okay, fine. It went down. That was a failed breakout. But if it goes up, like it did over the past couple of cycles, or we're a cycle and a half deep at the moment, after the first cycle, I said, okay, let's see what happens. We found a cycle low, we bounced, we continued higher in a strong fashion. And that for me was the trigger to say, okay, this gold breakout is for real, time to take on more risk. And by taking on more risk, I want to position in silver or the silver miners. And all that is it's just the way market dynamics work. If gold is going to go up, people are going to go, oh, okay, gold's going up. Well, let's get some silver. And silver's going up, so let's get some miners, right? And you'll see this with gold mining stocks as well. As gold becomes more and more established in the bull market, as it becomes more and more undeniable that the breakout is for real, people will start to speculate on penny stocks and gold miners and all of these crazy stuff, right? That's just how markets work. And you see the same thing in Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin moves up, people start to go, okay, Bitcoin's moving up, better get me some Dogecoin, right? Or whatever the altcoin is.
That's great. Yeah.
And or similarly, you might go, Bitcoin's going up, time to get me some crypto mining stock, right? And the more we get into a roaring bull market, the more people like to speculate on these assets. And so it goes back to what I was saying. Gold needs to give permission. I say permission to silver, but really gold needs to give permission to the traders. Gold needs to say, this is a real breakout. We really are serious about this move. This is a genuine shift in market dynamics. We really are attacking a new bull market run that could last for the rest of the decade. And then traders like me go, okay, well, I could either go long gold and hope for 10%, or in that same 10% move for gold, I could go long silver and I might get 20%. So that's all it is. That's always been my interpretation. And that's why I say gold needs to give silver and the mining stocks permission, right? And as gold becomes more and more undeniably in a bullish uptrend, then people like me, the traders, will start to be like, okay, time to get some mining stocks, time to get some penny mining stocks, right? Time to get these ones that they're never going to find gold, but we'll buy them anyway, right? Because I want more exposure, I want more risk. And if gold's going to move up, it's going to drag everything else up with it.
But obviously that's more dangerous to be grabbing those sort of things. More risk, as you say, not dangerous. Sorry, that was the wrong word to use. More risk. And yes, you could make so that's looking at making a higher percentage over a shorter term, maybe. But in the same token, is that why we see the volatility in silver, whereas it's gone up now, let's say nearly £22 an ounce? But could we see that drop quite suddenly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the term for this is beta. If something is higher beta, so silver is higher beta to gold. And that means if gold moves up, let's say arbitrary number 5%, you would expect silver to move up more than 5%. And similarly, when gold pulls back 3%, you would expect silver to pull back more than 3%.
Right.
So it's really, and as a trader, like, I don't care what the price is. I don't care. Like, I'm not even trading real silver, right? I'm having some weird derivative agreement with my broker. They're going to lend me money. I'm going to bet on this asset. And if it goes up, they pay me. And if it goes down, I pay them, right? So I don't even touch the silver in this trading example. It's all derivatives, all fugazi. It's all paper contracts being exchanged. But ultimately, as a trader, I see gold going up and I have two choices. Do I want to buy the gold in the paper version in my trading account, which might go up 10%, or do I want to take the silver, which might give me 20%? So that's how it is.
So,
And then, as I said, on the way back down, if gold's going to move down 10%, it's only reasonable to expect silver to move down more than 10%. That's the same
so,
with the Bitcoin and the crypto
but,
stocks, or Bitcoin and the altcoins, or whatever it is.
so for the little man like us, who buy our gold and silver in physical more than ETFs or anything else.
Yeah.
And again, it's all our opinion, so there's no actual advice here. But would you say, or my interpretation of this would be that I'd be better off buying on my level gold in smaller quantities, say because the price is shooting up, rather than hoarding up on silver?
I mean,
Because it could drop out a lot quicker on silver, and I'll be sitting on it, whereas
yeah,
gold will steadily go up.
there's also the consideration. I mean, it depends a lot on time horizon, right? If you're looking to trade, then I don't think physical metals are actually a good instrument to trade
No,
as short term. I don't think they are, because you're going to pay a premium on a coin, say, to buy it. If it's silver, you're then going to pay 20% VAT on it. Then when you come to sell it, you're going to get your pants pulled down over what you can sell it for. So in terms of physical allocation, I think anyone buying the physical allocation should be thinking very long term. And by that, like, I've got my physical allocation and I do not plan to sell it. I don't even plan to think about selling it until the backside of 2028, right? That's the time horizon I've got for my physical stack. So if you're in that category of people that holds the physical metals, it doesn't really matter if you've got the gold or the silver, because both are probably going up over the long term, right?
but
And
we've seen
yes, there will
silver.
be.
Sorry, Cameron, I do apologize, but we've seen silver over a long period of time go up and then go right back down to the same price over a period of 20 years, whereas
Yep.
gold consistently goes up slowly. So
Yep.
silver can actually go right back down.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And thus, I mean, again, it depends on your time horizon. It depends on what you want to do with it, right? If you can only afford to get some silver, but be aware of how the market works, right? The market tends to do not a lot, and then it tends to spike, and then it tends to crash. So be aware of that. Have a plan ahead of time. If you've got a bunch of silver, you might be saying to yourself, by the end of the decade, I'm looking for a big spike, big near vertical spike, and I'm going to try and dump as much of it as I can into that spike. Versus, for me personally, I prefer to hold physical gold for the longer term, because, like you say, it does make this steady climb. But again, it goes back to what I was saying. Gold needs to give silver permission to move. And by that, I really mean gold needs to give the traders permission to speculate on silver. So that's why we see silver do much more of a pump and dump type deal versus gold, which has this steady accumulation and it tends to hold its gains much more.
Lovely. That
Does
explains
that
a lot
answer your
for me.
question?
Yeah, clarifies it very nicely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, to maybe take this one step further, just in the interest of clarity, I have some silver. My plan for the silver, and I don't know if this will work, but my plan for the silver is to wait for some length of years, right, to see a full bull market for gold play out. And at some point at the end of that bull market, as I think we're coming up for our next 8-year cycle low, which is due in around 7 years' time, at some point as we get towards that cycle low for gold, I would expect to see silver go near vertical. And as it goes near vertical, I'm going to be looking to sell as much of that silver as I can get rid of. I know we spoke last time and you were saying, will the dealers buy it? That's another conversation for another day. We're going to find out, right?
I was just thinking about that.
but I mean, if it's trading at $300 or $400 an ounce and I can get 150, then that will be some profit returned, right?
Yes.
But in terms of, and I've been very clear about this, my trading is separate from my long-term holds. The trading, I will speculate on the stuff that's going to give me the highest return. And for the long-term hold, I want gold. Gold is the market. And like I said, gold needs to give permission to everything else to move.
Okay.
Oh my good grief. This is the reason, guys, I have these two on this beautiful channel, because if you need, seriously, I'm saying to everybody, rewind that last 10 minutes back and back and back, and you will get so many different answers to general investing queries to give you the opportunity to go off and explore. Camel answers. And this is all free and it's so powerful. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm just going to very quickly come over to Darth, if Darth is still there.
Yeah.
Cool. What did you think of that, Darth?
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? But
It's
but um, summarizing, and I might get
Darth.
this
Can you
totally
speak up a
wrong.
little bit, please?
Like, can you hear me?
Yeah. Could you just speak up a little bit on your microphone?
Right. Yeah. Of course. Right. Sorry. So, uh, yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot to take in for me, for everybody who's listening to this. But I was just going to say, what do we really know for a fact? One thing is sure to happen in the near future: printing. Right? Is that right, guys?
Yes.
Right. So that's a fact. Okay. I think we should all understand that we got one little thing that goes on. It's printing, and I think we can get some advantage with that. As long as we understand to a general level that printing causes really inflation, and then you need assets. Okay, that's good. Now, maybe property, maybe Bitcoin, maybe gold, maybe silver, maybe whatever. On top of that, obviously, we just heard, as we talked about this, CBDCs are coming on top of that. So that's a discussion about a little bit more or less control upon people, upon us plebs, right? And so on and so on. But then what the average guy will do, somebody like me, for example, right? So a question to Camel.
Okay. Can we do the questions in a little while? Because I just want to cover Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
yeah, of course.
All right. Cool. Guys, Bitcoin.
Here we
Anyway,
go. Here we go.
so myself and CPM had a massive conversation, Camel, about Bitcoin and gold. Now, obviously, my main asset out of these two is gold. And please don't mistake what I say here. I love Bitcoin. I've looked into it a bit more. I understand it a bit more. But I'd like to put a thing to you. Gold is an asset. Bitcoin, to me, is an investment, not an asset. Am I wrong in saying that? And then I'll go deeper into it after you answer that.
Absolutely, categorically wrong, brother.
Okay, please tell me.
um,
I'm gonna love this.
Yep, it's going to be a
Oh,
good
me
one.
too.
Bitcoin is the apex predator asset.
Okay.
I know what you mean, because it's like this new thing. It's like data on a blockchain. It's not the same as
Yeah.
holding God's money in your hand, right? It's different when you got a gold coin in your hand. You look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's something. Bitcoin is obviously not the same. Bitcoin is data on a blockchain, but make no mistake about it, it is backed by the world's first decentralized, uncensorable network. It takes thousands of dollars to mine a single Bitcoin, and whilst it's not as intuitive for the older guys, and that's not me saying that's not me calling you old or anything. I'm in that category of older guys.
No, you're correct, but please, yeah.
In the younger generation, right? I'm talking like your 18-year-olds. For them, everything is online, right? Everything is digital. It's completely intuitive to those people that you can have digital money, digital value. I mean, even going into the video game sector, you see an awful lot of people paying hundreds of dollars for a skin on a gun in a game, or for an outfit they can wear or whatever. And that's been going on for many years, right? A long time. So for the much younger generation, it's far more intuitive to comprehend that just because it's data doesn't mean it doesn't have value, right? I would say Bitcoin really does improve on gold in many ways. Like, it's difficult to divide gold. It's not difficult to divide Bitcoin. it's difficult to move gold across countries undetected. It's difficult to leave a war zone carrying your net worth in gold, right, undetected, but it's not difficult to memorize 12 words in your head and move anywhere in the world. So, and that's just a couple of examples. There are many more. Bitcoin improves on gold in many, many ways. I understand that it's a new technology and thus people are still skeptical of it. I am still in that group of people that is somewhat skeptical of it, especially with the whole ETF thing and Wall Street slowly but surely hoovering up large amounts of the supply. But make no mistake about it, it is a real asset, and it absolutely is, in my opinion, the apex predator asset.
Okay, so please, what I say next, I don't want you to take negatively. I just want you to understand how I'm thinking and then maybe put me right, realistically put me right. So if, and this is again going to extremes, but just to make a point here, if we went into a situation where there was war, where there was some sort of devastation or a major change, when you end up with it in the end, we have gold as an asset, let's say, which is in your hand. And I'm talking about, again, us lot, the little man, and what we're doing for ourselves. So we have a piece of gold or several pieces of gold, which we could use in a situation where it always holds some value. It has inherent value in it as a actual physical thing. Whereas with Bitcoin, if we went into that same situation, and let's say we know that if it comes to war, for instance, cyber war is going to be one of the biggest things, and systems are knocked out and all that lot, how can you call it an asset as such? And I understand that it takes thousands of pounds worth of energy to make a Bitcoin. I understand how that works. But that thousands of pounds worth of value that was put into the energy of making that Bitcoin can't be withdrawn as such. So, yes, it's an extreme situation, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But if we get to that situation, and I know you'll probably say, well, if we're in that situation, you've got a lot more to worry about. But you have gold, which always has had an inherent value. Human society knows its value, whereas Bitcoin could be wiped out or is not a physical thing that you can trade with.
Yeah, you are right. You are absolutely right. And you nailed it when you said, if we get to that point, then we'll probably have bigger things to worry about. If we get to the point where there's no internet and suddenly your smartphones don't work, and it's going to be difficult to transact peer-to-peer on an online internet-based digital currency, right? So yeah, I have to give you that. Like, there's no way for me to say, oh well, Bitcoin will manage. No, you're right. If there's no internet and you can't use your smartphone to transact peer-to-peer, then yes, we would probably like to have some gold to barter with or some silver to barter with. So you're absolutely right in that scenario. But don't make the mistake of thinking that it's not a real asset just because it's on the internet. I mean, the same would be true of your stocks, right? Is shares in Apple not a real asset because if the internet goes down, you can't buy or sell it, right?
I think maybe the word asset was wrong to use then. What I mean is a physical thing in your hand, which, they used to chip off bits of gold off coins, and just be able to use that to trade here and there and the other. If we had a problem where the internet went down, or even for a year, even while we rebuilt it, gold could still be used in a way where it is a physical thing, whereas Bitcoin is not. All shares and all that are not a physical thing as such.
Yeah, you are right. And to that, I would simply say that, I mean, if we go into that level of extreme, right, then things like bullets and ability to defend yourself start to trump having the gold in the first place. Because
absolutely,
I know you're a big guy and you might be just fine, right? But for your average Joe that's sitting on a few gold coins, they're just prey in that environment.
Yes.
Right? That's a really horrible reality. But if you think you're going to barter with somebody that's not just going to pull a knife or a
just
gun,
going to nick it.
right? So you are in this situation. It's a dog eat dog world, and there's no more society, and everything has collapsed. If we go into this extreme, then most people become prey. Like, that's the absolute reality. And a few psychopaths will end up with all the gold and all the resources, and will have no problem taking it from everyone else. So yeah, I mean, you are right. If there's no internet and there's no access to a smartphone, then yeah, we get into this difficult and sticky situation. And maybe, you're a big guy, you'll probably be okay, right? But again, it comes back down to, I think it's okay to have both, right? It's okay to have gold and Bitcoin. I've never been a person that has suggested Bitcoin only. In fact, I've often said that one of the biggest problems with the Bitcoin community is their disdain for gold. They're like, "Oh, it's better in every way." Well, it's not. Like you can
No,
you can have both. Central banks are not buying gold for no reason, right? It's okay to have both, and that's absolutely fine. Yeah,
it doesn't even have to go to that total disaster level. I look, as I say, I do appreciate Bitcoin. I think it's an amazing thing, and I think for the future and as we move on with the technology and all that, look, you're absolutely right. Bitcoin is a massive, massive thing, and as you say, the younger generation understands it definitely way more than I do. But I think you've hit the nail on the head there by saying that both are important. And this is why I have more affinity to gold, probably because of my age, and probably because I think, look, it doesn't have to go to that deep, dark level of absolute destruction, but the physical ability to have something which has value is very important.
yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. And as you know, I hold both, and I've been a proponent of both. I've been excited about gold breaking out, and I've been quite vocal on my channel about saying I want to exit my Bitcoin into gold, right? Once I believe this Bitcoin is topped, I've been very vocal about saying I want to
Yes.
exit it into gold because I don't want counterparty risk. I don't see the point in exiting Bitcoin into the banking system that can just say, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Camel, like that's ours now," or "We're going to seize and freeze that," or "We're going CBDC launch," or whatever. Like I want to
Yeah.
exit it into gold, and I plan to hold the vast majority of that gold well through the end of this decade. So yeah, I'm absolutely
So
on board with that.
is Bitcoin the apex then, or
I
they
believe
both have their inherent values?
they do both have their inherent values. I think when I say Bitcoin is an apex predator asset, I mean there's nothing else that does 70%
No.
CAGR, right? Compound annual uh compound annual growth rate.
Compound interest growth rate.
Compound, yeah. So nothing else does 70% CAGR, right? Nothing. So that's what I mean when I say it's an apex predator asset. And for anyone that's not really sure of the power of that, then I implore you to go onto, type into Google, compound interest calculator, right? Type in an arbitrary number, 1,000, 5,000, whatever. Set the interest to 70% annual, and then extrapolate it out over a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, and you will have your mind blown by the number that it comes out with, right? That's what I mean by the apex predator asset. All you have to do is hold on to an asset that's doing 70% a year on average, and you will massively increase your wealth over a decade plus. Now, can the same be said for gold? I don't know. Like, I'm very bullish gold, as you know. I've got a 10 to 15K minimum per ounce target for gold by the end of the decade. And certainly anyone that's holding gold and silver will probably be able to reap the benefits of that by the end of the decade. But is it going to do 70% a year?
But
I
in
don't
the
know.
same token, we've seen Bitcoin, and again, please don't misunderstand the fact I love Bitcoin. So I just put these questions because it gives me a wider view on it. In the same token, we've also seen Bitcoin shoot up to, I don't know, $60,000 and shoot right back down to $12,000. So that gain is only achieved when you sell, whereas gold consistently goes up. Yes, we have our dips, don't get me wrong, but over time it consistently goes up. So, we will see another drop in Bitcoin, 30, 40% maybe. So we've also got that level. You're saying it's 70% per year, but then when you get a drop for 3 or 4 years like we had, then it's, average it out. Are we at the same
No.
level?
That 70% includes 85% vol, meaning it draws
Okay,
down up to 85% in a bear market. So it
right.
does 2,000+% in a bull market, and then
I
draws down
see.
85%. So the average of all of that is 70% a year. So
Gotcha.
that's what I mean by apex predator. We're talking 70% a year, including the 85% bear markets it goes through. So
Thank you. That explains it.
there's nothing else quite like that. And if you have a little bit of ability to sell near the top and buy back near the bottom, then you don't have to sit through the minus 85%, and that 70% a year massively increases. Now, again, it's different, right? It's different to gold. Like you say, gold has far less volatility, but it's important to note here, gold's market cap is what, 13 or 14 trillion today, something like that. Bitcoin's is
Right.
just over 1 trillion. So
Yes.
it only makes sense when we've got such a nascent asset like Bitcoin and such a small market cap that, of course, it's going to be more volatile. But over time, as more money comes into the space, as the market cap grows, as the price increases, then we should expect those bear market declines to trend from 95% to 85% to 77%, which I think was the last bear market, is it reasonable to expect that maybe we only do 65, 70% of the next bear market? Is it reasonable to then expect the next one after that is maybe only 50 or 60%? That seems reasonable. As the market cap increases, as this becomes, as this transitions from a 1 trillion-ish market cap to a 10 trillion to match that of gold or to start catching up with gold, then we would
Right.
start to expect the bear markets to be closer to 30, 40%, 50% instead of the 85, 90 that we've seen historically.
That really does put things in a slightly different perspective for me. I think I'll always be stronger with gold. That's just me.
Yeah.
But it gives me more confidence in Bitcoin as well, which is great. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. And of course, remember the long-term goal for Bitcoin, right, is to reach 100 trillion market cap. So that is 100x from where we are today.
Right.
And at 100 trillion, then we can start actually using it as money, right? Then it's no longer going to have the volatility that it has today. So at the moment, if it moves $3,000 or $4,000 in a day, you don't really even think about it, right? You're like, well, that's what Bitcoin does, right? It does that at least 2 or 3 days a week. But once we get to the $100 trillion market cap, then it starts to be able to challenge and rival actual fiat currency. And at that level, we won't see the day-to-day volatility that we normally are used to seeing. At that level, we would expect, day-to-day volatility of less than 1%. And thus, then we can start actually using it as money, right? Then
that makes very good sense, because one of my things was that we can't use Bitcoin as money at the moment, because you buy something off me for £100, just putting a figure out there, £100, and by tomorrow it's worth 50. Or by the day after, it's worth 150. So I sold you a product, and now my actual money's worth half of what it was.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But remember, this is a function of having a $1 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
Right. Apple has what, 2.5, 3 trillion Apple shares, right? It's like over 2 trillion, I think. So I think Nvidia is around 2 trillion. So we've not even caught that up. We've only just about overtaken silver, as far as I'm aware, at about 1.3 trillion. And, to get to gold, we need about 13 or 14 trillion. By then, we're not going to have the day-to-day swings that we do. We're not going to have the bear markets in the 85% region. And like I said, the target is 100 trillion, right? Once we get to 100 trillion, then we can start actually using it as money. Then it starts to become a store of value that gradually increases over time, just like gold does. And we don't have to worry about seeing an 85% decline or even a 50 or 40% decline. But
and
course,
again, this
in the
would
meantime,
only be your opinion. What period of time would we look at to hit 13 trillion?
13 trillion, I think we could probably do it in the next 4 to 6 years.
Okay.
Maybe before then. And I think 100 trillion probably is 15 years. That's a completely speculative guess.
Yes, of course. Of course. Yeah, yeah.
But
it gives us an idea of where this could actually become. You see, the value of Bitcoin to me will then become very, very real. Because it's not just about the trading of it, it's about the actual use of it.
Yeah, and the opportunity comes from getting in early enough that it's a $1 trillion asset, not a $100 trillion asset.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where I think Bitcoin comes into its own, because it's out of the system as such. And it's, like we said before, the people's money. But it's only the people's money if you can use it as money.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can use it as money, for sure. All over the world, they are using it as money. In places like Nigeria, they use it as money.
Yeah.
Over 60% of the population uses it as money in Nigeria. There's plenty of other examples. So, we take it for granted because we live in a relatively, despite all the obvious and alarming problems, we live in a relatively stable society with a relatively stable currency, right? But if you look at the price of it in like the Lebanese pound or the Argentinian peso, and you see that like Bitcoin does Bitcoin things, right? Like, it does what it's supposed to do. And it's only a matter of time.
We saw what it did in Egypt very recently as well. It just shot up because the Egyptian pound went to top.
Yeah, yeah. So, it does what it's supposed to do. It does what it says it will do on the tin. It just is going to take a lot longer because we are in a nation where we're fighting the Great British Pound, which is a lot stronger than the Argentinian peso, for example.
Yeah.
But I do believe in the long term, whether it's 10, 15, 20 years, I do believe that all charts are going to look exactly the same. They're all going to be this enormous straight up line to the millions. And, ultimately it's just going to take a bit longer because we live in a society which has a much stronger currency.
That's amazing. It's given me a lot of information there on what the possibilities of Bitcoin are in the future and how powerful it could really be.
Yeah, it can certainly be very powerful. I mean, the thing you've got to keep in mind is someone could easily find a bug in the code, right? I don't think it's likely, but it's a non-zero probability. You never know if someone can figure out how to break the wallets or something like that. It certainly has its risks, but
Yes.
it's over 15 years old now. Every attack that it's had, it has weathered, and every attack makes it stronger. Every attack just proves that actually you can't mess with Bitcoin, right? Every time somebody bans it, like China, or they ban the mining, what we see is a couple of months goes by and then they own all of a sudden 20% of the hash rate. So, and they're forced to come around and say, okay, well, we don't want to ban it. Actually, we want to charge you taxes on it. So every attack makes Bitcoin stronger. Yes, it's still a nascent asset because it's only 15 years old. Yes, it's still very undervalued in terms of, or I guess nascent because it's only got a trillion-ish market cap, 1.3 trillion. But as that progresses, as long as it keeps doing Bitcoin things, right? As long as it keeps having some level of adoption, then it's only reasonable to expect the market cap to grow over time. As the market cap grows over time, it becomes more and more a challenger to gold. And eventually, I'm sure it will surpass the market cap of gold. I am sure of that.
Is it basically by people's belief in it though that it keeps to where it is? If people lose faith in it, would it drop out? Could it drop out? Is the question really?
Well, I mean, yes and no, right? Like, what if we all lost faith in the pound? Does the
Yeah, well,
pound?
we already have. I mean,
Well,
this is the
yeah.
trouble. Like that's a fiat currency, and
Yeah.
in the
I mean, it's
same
a
way.
different.
Sorry.
It's a completely different system because fiat currency is proof of war, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what it's really backed by. It's not backed by anything except the promise that the country will go to war to defend it. So
Yeah.
fiat currency is proof of war. Bitcoin is proof of work. So there is no war. There's no one that's promising to enforce it by violence, but instead it just has mathematical code, which so far has been functioning perfectly for 15 years. And as long as the miners keep mining, as long as we go TikTok next block and every 10 minutes another block is mined and added to the chain, then nothing really changes, right?
Mm. The halving will knock out a lot of miners, won't it? With the energy costs going up then to produce the same amount?
Not necessarily. What do you mean knock out a lot of miners? Like take them
As
offline?
in the smaller miners. So bigger miners, yep, they can weather those costs that will increase to get the Bitcoin. Smaller miners, will it reduce the amount of miners out there?
Well, I don't think so initially. Typically, what we see the miner capitulation come in around the bear market loads. So at the moment, it costs something like $18,000 to mine one Bitcoin,
Yeah.
right? A current price of 67-ish thousand. They're all sitting pretty. Now,
Right.
after the halving, that price will double. It will cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $36,000 to mine a Bitcoin. But so long as we keep trading at 67 plus,
We're
then
all right.
they're all gravy. Now,
Yeah.
there are more complications because the mining rigs, the computers, the ASICs that they use to mine the Bitcoin, they need to be replaced every couple of years. And they can't actually manufacture them fast enough to meet the demand. So there's like a
Right.
6-month waiting list for the new miners. But the miners are ahead of this, right? They know this is coming. They put their pre-orders in. They're expecting to receive the new upgraded ASIC miners somewhere in the next 6 to 9 months. And when they do, then the whole thing kind of starts over again, right? So
Got it.
the miners they've got at the moment become obsolete. The new miners get put into work and put into action. And then the hash rate goes up even more because the new chips are able to mine more
At a
hashes,
faster rate.
more hashes per second. Yeah. So the whole
Yeah.
thing just like this exponential increase. Now, at some point, the market top comes in and we enter a bear market. Usually in the bear market, as we start to get to depressed levels, right, as we start to draw down 50, 60, 70%, it's in
Yeah.
that neighborhood that now the weaker miners, the miners with less hash rate, the miners with the more
Yeah.
debt, the miners with the smallest margins for operating costs, right, the most expense for cooling and electricity, they get squeezed out. They typically go broke. The hash rate gets handed over to the stronger miners, the more efficient
Got it.
miners. And then the whole thing goes over again, right? That's what we call miner capitulation. We see that typically a bottom for Bitcoin forms thereafter, and the whole thing goes over again. As the price increases, more miners come into the space, and newer miners with more efficient machines come into the space, and the whole cycle repeats all over again.
Mm. Could big companies not use that to their advantage to control the space of miners? As in, big companies have the money to have all the equipment and the ability to mine at a faster rate. As the smaller ones get knocked out, they take over their sort of production. Can that not happen? And then we end up with a hierarchy of miners in that way?
Yeah, it all comes down to the chips, right? It's all to do with the chip manufacturer that comes out of China predominantly. As as they develop new chips, they get released and then they get used. They typically got a life cycle of like 2 to 3 years before they need replacing again. And in terms of could there be a monopoly, it wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily be over the miners so much as it would be over the chip manufacturers. There is a conspiracy. I don't know how much validity there is to it, but there is a conspiracy that the Chinese miners like to hold back a certain amount of the chips they produce so that they can keep the hash rate for themselves and then have a competitive
Right.
advantage. But ultimately, so long as the protocol is sufficiently decentralized, so long as there's nodes spread out throughout the world, so long as the miners are in every country, then it doesn't really change much, right?
Right. Okay. Amazing, bro. Really amazing. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in, if
Please
that's
do.
okay.
Yes.
I've been to the toilet. I've topped up my whiskey with ice. I've just let you guys go for it.
I feel sorry for Darth at the moment.
Hang on a minute. No, we're going to come to Darth. I would just like to say this is why I am. This is a privilege. I don't think anyone else is doing this in UK at this level. To listen to the quality of information that is just being talked about from people that are passionate and professional about what they believe in and do. And it's so cool to be a part of just sitting back and listening to super great conversation. I can't thank you both enough. That last half an hour, I I think it's just a crazy beneficial for anyone that's wanting to dip their toes into the pond of what we all love in our passion in this space. So thank you very much. Very much indeed. Superb. Now that's been an hour and 45 minutes already, guys. And poor old Darth's been sitting there on the sidelines. I hope he's enjoyed it. Now I've got the privilege of sharing this time and space we used to a lot. So I'm going to pass this last sort of section to
Absolutely.
Darth. And Darth, this is all yours. This is your space. You can ask what you like, who you like. Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this really was amazing. The amount of information that comes up, it's absolutely brilliant. What I was going to say is, in historically, yeah, we're looking at things, and there was this fiat currency called dollar that was always at some point backed up by a thing called gold. And I've seen a lot of videos and a lot of information against Bitcoin, which I don't agree with. And oh, it's the new thing. Oh, yeah, it's not backed up by anything. This is not financial advice, but it is backed up by the technology itself. It is backed up by the blockchain technology. As long as the network is there and as long as the network is going to be used, I believe, just a personal opinion, Bitcoin will always be sort of there and will do, like Cameron says, Bitcoin things. And as gold will do gold things. On the other side, I was going to say, the scenario has changed. We're looking at the digital world. We're looking at Bitcoin. We're looking at a new generation. And just like gold, a little bit, which is a very good sniffer, yeah, he can sniff things before it happens. And that's why sometimes we can see, ooh, it just went up, right? The government actually all over the world, and I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to say why, but I'm going to stop there and say the government sort of sniff a little bit of what the new generation wants. And apparently, because of the new developments that's out there, I'm really going to try to keep this short. Because of the new developments that are there in the world, the government saw the new generation, and this is a big problem, I believe. the new generation doesn't want to work anymore. And we live in this networking, we live in this digital world where the new generation sort of, well, if there's anything to work, I will do it in there, in the network, but not really physically. No, I don't want to get up and go to work, really. It's just my opinion. It doesn't have to be like that. But then, within all this scenario, the government came up, well, not the UK government, obviously, the world governments came up, or whoever you want to name them, they came up with AI, they came up with robotics, and they came up with this solution that in the near future, we're going to have sort of AI technology making more robots and robots and robots, and they're going to take our human place into the working place, and that's going to be a problem. And then the next thing they came up, which I don't know, I think you heard about it. It's an experiment in the UK. There are 30 families in the UK starting with 2021, 2022. It's an experiment, and they said, yeah, you don't have to go to work. We're going to give you 5K per family, as long as you can accept that. And that's linked all together as a universal credit, right? You don't have to work, you just need to accept this. This is the universal income that you're going to get, 5K per family. And well, obviously, if you want to do a little bit more, then you can go to work, but you don't have to. You'll get that minimum 5K a month anyway. And then just look at that scenario within a digital world, within a strong network where Bitcoin still goes on, yeah, where AI is still doing his thing, where robotics are still gonna work for us. And then the new generation goes, well, this is all right. This is fine. Why? What am I trying to say? I think, and Camel can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not very good at this. I don't have all the information. But all I'm saying is Bitcoin, it is backed up by the actual technology, the blockchain technology. And as long as network is going to be alive and networking, as long as networking is going to be there, then yeah, I think Bitcoin is going to be there doing Bitcoin things. Bear in mind this experiment for 30 families that's been right now in the UK with universal credit and so on, 5K a month. It's there, yeah, just for them to be within the network and be left alone and own nothing and be happy. A little bit conspirational, I know. I'm not. I really am not. But it is what it is. And then on the other side, we also have gold and silver, which is physical. There are different cultures out there. We, UK, Europe, we are not preppers. It's not within our culture. It has never been in our history. But on the other side, US, as you can see, yeah, there are a bit more preppers. So to some extent, unfortunately, and I think it's unfortunate, people have to stock food, guns, bullets, and so on, because something at some point is going to happen and the whole world will go down to zero and whatever. Unfortunately, that's more happening in the US rather than Europe and UK, because we never had, I don't think we properly had that exercise. We're not pretty much doing that. But I think on a larger scale with everything that's happening, with all this progress. I think we need to be open-minded. We need to look at Bitcoin. It has the chance, I think it has the chance to be a solid base, for a currency. Just like gold used to be all the way to, what was it, 1971, when Nixon said, okay, we're getting off the gold standards and so on and so on, as long as networking is there. But to sum it up, as we don't know yet if Bitcoin has that power. I love Bitcoin anyway. We don't know if Bitcoin has that power, but in the meantime, we do have this thing called precious metals, and I think people should understand, especially if you are one of me, like plebs, we should understand there is an opportunity here, really, with precious metals, especially gold, because that's the master. And I think Camel and Cobra were absolutely right when they said, yeah, silver is like the little soldier is waiting for the order from gold. Yeah, okay, come along, you can go up. And then silver goes up. He's waiting for his master, gold, to go up first. But I think the next generation also needs to understand that gold and silver, and especially gold, it can be a very good hedge against whatever is coming up next. So what's coming up next? Well, hopefully, backed up continuing networking, so then Bitcoin will stay alive many years, hopefully forever, but I'm not going to comment on that. A lot of printing, universal proper universal credit with those 5K a month, where people don't have to go to work, because AI and robotics is going to do everything for you. Within that world, I still believe that precious metals, specifically gold, it can do a lot of good things. It can give you some peace of mind. It can, how would I put this? Because I don't want to exaggerate. It can really make you happy and own something, rather than own nothing and be happy.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Do you know, one of the most important things I picked up out of that, Darth, was that your sense of saying having an open mind, and I think that's critical in this day and age. It's so important to have an open mind, because once you create that open mind, then you have that opportunity to listen to others, and maybe that may just make you, or us, me particularly, look down an avenue that I haven't thought about. And that is very powerful, what you just said there. Dude, I really appreciate that. We've probably got about 15 minutes left, roughly, but I want to give this space to you. Is there any particular questions you want to ask anybody?
Yeah, of course. I've been watching a Camel Finance channel for quite a long time now, and obviously, just like everybody else, what are we plebs trying really to do? Stay ahead, right? So we're trying to stay ahead, and this is might be a very simple question for Camel, because I cannot. And I don't think I'll ever get to a state where I'm going to understand technical analysis, for example. Yeah. Looking at the markets, what to look, especially nowadays when the narrative is just, you cannot really trust it. it's like a lot of lies on top of lies and so on. When the data comes out and they said, oh, we have 5% um, um, I don't know, 5% on something or whatever, and they 2 months later they're just gonna say, well, actually the primary data was wrong. We're sorry, we're gonna do this again. Pretty much lying to your face. But then plebs like me, just average normal people, what are we going to do? Because we're looking at the stock market and nothing makes sense for a lot of us. If you know what I'm trying to say, nothing makes sense. Bonds goes up together with gold and everything else, which it shouldn't be happening. So then I'm asking this: what if, what if I have no technical analysis on this and I can't understand it, uh, but would still dollar cost average, for example, make any sense within whatever it's coming towards us, as in a method of investing? May that be Bitcoin or S&P 500 or Apple or you name it.
Does dollar cost averaging work for, I mean, so long as we're in a bull market, we should continue to go higher, right? So DCAing on the way up for gold, I don't think will be a problem. I think the same is true of silver. And a lot of people get shy about buying at all-time highs. They're like, well, it's at all-time highs. I don't want to pay all-time high prices. Yeah, but the only way we go higher is to continuously make new highs. So I think it's okay to DCA for the metals. For Bitcoin, I would be somewhat skeptical about DCAing here, only because I've been under the impression that we are probably going to top sooner than most people think. So DCAing on the way up is fine, but if you don't have the confidence to pull the trigger and sell, assuming we are going to get a left translated cycle, then DCAing Bitcoin right now might be, I would consider, significantly more risky. But in terms of like I would say the same is kind of true for the stock market. But that's why I like the cycle lows, right? You don't need any technical analysis skills to count 40 days on the S&P, and then you have at least an area on the chart to manage your risk around. Same is true of Bitcoin, right? It undergoes 60-day cycles. So it's fairly easy to count 60 days, look for a swing, and then you know where your stop loss has to go. I think there's nothing wrong with accumulating and DCAing into the metals, but I would be personally a little bit hard pressed to say that DCAing into the stock market here or DCAing into Bitcoin here is a good idea. I think there will be better opportunities coming up later in life if you're the sort of person that is not confident in their ability as a trader or as a technical analyst. That would be my opinion.
Right. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Good. I think that really, says something for me and for whoever is listening to this. And also back to Cobra.
Sorry, Dov, can I just hop in here and say, just to add to that, actually, it also depends largely on your time horizon, I think. So if you're okay with DCAing Bitcoin, say between here and 150K and then all the way back down to 60K, if you're okay with that and you're comfortable with just building a position over 4, 5, 6, 7 years, then I don't think there's a problem with DCAing into Bitcoin. But if you're not the sort of person that can stomach perhaps up to an 80% drawdown in a bear market that shows up sometime in the middle of this year, that is one possibility. And so I would say it all comes down to timeline. It's the same with the stock market, right? Like if you're okay with DCAing into the stock market for the next 4 years with an expectation to not see any real return until the end of the decade, then I think it's okay to DCA into the stock market. But in the more short term, I do think the stock market and Bitcoin both carry risk, and it might be better to play it, wait for some kind of bear market to unfold and then get in there. But if you've got a long-term horizon, right, if you're okay with DCAing, every month for the next 4 years and then holding it for the long term, then I don't see there being a problem with that. So it all comes down to time horizon.
Yeah, exactly. My question was wrong. Sorry. So obviously I'm looking at this on the long term. we're talking about minimum 5 years to all the way 10 years, not the other way around. Because I do believe if you want to be safe, yeah, if you want to get sort of, like I said, own something and be happy rather than, not own nothing and be happy. So own something and be happy. I think it has to be a plan of a long term, like 10 years minimum. And I think going in the stock market, including Bitcoin and S&P 500 and you name it, whatever it is, on the long term, that's really what I wanted to see if this year, at least, it will give you a chance. And yeah, I think it is. And the same question goes for Cobra within the precious metals, because I think, for example, investing in gold is, it's the only material that we always knew throughout the history that stood the time eventually. But I think also nowadays, I think the market is changing a little bit. And I really do believe that to some extent, especially with what the new mints are coming up with, I think premium silver, it's a totally different story. And I really just wanted to, because I've seen Cobra's auctions, and last night, literally just last night, everything was premium. It was bought straight away. And
I think
2 weeks ago again. And I think we have a market where we kind of getting there. And I do believe myself in premium coins, but what I want to ask Cobra is, for example, where do you see the premium silver will go in a couple of years, in the next couple of years?
I think you have to separate totally the actual asset of gold and silver as one thing and the premium coins as a totally different thing. So, for instance, gold and silver as a metal, dollar cost averaging into gold, absolutely, my opinion is, always keep buying because gold will steadily go up. So, yes, it is a longer term thing in the way of exactly what Camel said. If you're doing it over a longer period of time, then, keep buying a quarter, keep buying a tenth, whatever you can afford to do. And over that period of time, it's definitely going to go up. And so, I wouldn't say don't do that. The premium coin market is a very, very different entity and shouldn't be looked at as an investment in that way, in my opinion. Again, I think the premium market is really about understanding what sort of coins. It's a very simple way I look at it. If you love a coin and you see the value in it, in the artwork, in the high relief, in the time that's been put into it, that's where your premium comes in. The time, the artwork, and everything else. Now, there are going to be some coins that will do very, very well, and there will be other ones which are very short term. So there could be a coin that comes out, it's premium because it's beautiful, and then it's forgotten about because so much is being released. And so that premium can be lost over time. There'll be other ones which are based on a franchise, Star Wars, Call of Duty, like I've got in my display there, which are longer term premium. So, these companies have been established, they've been around for years and years and years. People will always know Star Wars, Marvel, and DC and all that sort of stuff, and they can hold their premiums longer. Then there'll be certain pieces which are so artful and so beautiful, they'll stand the test of time. But that is more a risk on premium, or a quick flip can make you money very easily on premium stuff. Sometimes holding it a bit longer will make you money if you understand what's going on. Peak Peaky Blinders, for instance. We've got a
Yep.
major film coming out which will hold that value or increase that value. You could buy a set of coins like my Gangsters, and the first in the series is always a beneficial one if it's going to be a great series. And you can sort of look at it and say, well, this is going to be really good. That first coin, people will miss out. It's limited mintage, and then it will increase over time as the rest of the set comes out. But you must differentiate investing in gold and silver to buying premium products. It's two totally separate entities.
Right. So what are you saying is, for example, for silver, there's always going to be good stuff, sort of, yeah.
Yes.
For Star Wars, DC, Marvel, because they're always going to be there. But then there's maybe short time periods for other premium coins
Yes.
that they're only going to survive for a couple of years or so on and so on. And obviously with gold, then premium is premium with gold because it's sort of the master, isn't it? So, right, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, that makes totally sense. Makes
Good.
totally sense. And last question for CPM, because I know CPM is looking into this very quietly, and he's an addicted observer.
He's a lurker.
Oh
We call
dear.
him the lurker.
Oh
That's what we
dear.
call
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, he is a lurker. He just sits there watching, getting conclusions, right? Thinking, every little line. He never misses things out. So for CPM is, I have a question. CPM in the precious metals market, yeah.
Okay.
Do you think, with all this technology going on, do you think gold and silver, let's say in 20, 30 years from now, do you think that precious metal is still going to be a thing? Or not really, not so much?
Oh wow.
No!
Oh, what a question.
Oh, God, what the hell are we going to do?
Camel, unmute yourself, dude. Okay. Wow, that is an amazing question. Do I think? Okay, what do I know? I've always professed. I love this saying. What I know nothing, but I've. I'm going to answer that as though my youngest son just asked me that question. So don't take that the wrong way, Dar.
Right.
Okay. There's always going to be a market for anything, not just precious metals, in this world. Now, crikey, but that's such a tough question. Why did I get that tough one? I was quite happy just sitting there listening. But
No.
I'm gonna. It's a difficult one because there's so many questions I would ask back to it before I could answer it fluently, based on how are you asking that question? Are you asking that question from the viewpoint of is there any value in it? As I had this conversation with Cobra the other night. Yeah, is there a value from a physical point of view? Can I make a statue out of anything? Don't laugh, Cobra.
There's a long history of that.
Yeah,
comment.
exactly. So there will always, probably there will be always as long as mankind and humanity live on this planet, there will always be something that somebody can do with something, if that makes any sense. And going back to your question, yeah, there is always something that we can innovate, use certain materials in this planet to make, hopefully Camo agrees with this, to make our existence better whilst we're living on this planet. from a value point of view, there's always going to be a value based on that. So yeah, I can't answer that any
May
way,
I?
any
May I?
other way.
Oh.
Go for it, Cobra. Yeah.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, metals have an inherent value.
Yep.
Silver has its values in industry. Silver has its values in its conductivity, and all that sort of stuff. So there's always a value there,
Right.
and it can be used in industries and so many other things. So silver has that value. Gold has had a value for a millennia. It's an unbelievable metal. It doesn't corrode. It has a beauty to it. It has a rarity to it. And so people through civilizations, through thousands of years and different levels of technology have always valued gold. So it's not just as a monetary thing, it has an inherent value to it. So therefore, yes, moving forward, we may digitally, as a financial system, move more into Bitcoin, CBDCs and all that lot, but never
Yes.
underestimate gold of its inherent values as a precious metal. And that's where the value of gold comes in.
Okay.
Okay. I will
Right.
just answer it a little bit more from my point of view.
I want to hear what Camel has to say about this, honestly,
Yeah, that's
as
fine.
well.
So yes, totally what Cobra said. There's a value in making stuff from precious metals. There's a value in just investing in precious metals and investing in other people's innovative ways of making that precious metals work. That's called a marketplace. And yeah, so there's probably always going to be an outlet for it, for sure. But I think totally it will be dependent on how my kids, my children's children, and my children's children's children want to own and be a part of that world going forward when I'm long gone and I'm worm food. That's the only way I can answer that one.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Camel, buddy, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, pardon my ignorance. What exactly is the question?
Right.
I
Brilliant.
love that. Campbell's just sitting there, just totally
I'm hanging out the window smoking a cigarette. So
rummed up.
Oh,
And
Rummed
no.
up.
I'll tell you what the question is. So we just say it quickly. So as we move on 30, 40 years down the line, obviously we are moving into an era of more digital stuff. And so the value of, say, Bitcoin and CBDCs or whatever will have an inherent value there. And also
Exactly.
with humanity and the younger generations being more into that, there'll always be that value. Will gold and silver or precious metals hold a value in 30 years?
Or if anything, what kind of value do you see to it?
yeah, I think that the value is always going to be there, right? Like I don't see a world in which it's had a monetary value for thousands of years and central banks are buying it and then suddenly we just decide like let's throw it in the sea, it's worthless. I don't think like we get 10, 15, 20, 40 years into the future and there is no value to this stuff. It's God's money, right? It's inherent to the earth and I'm sure that's going to continue.
Well, there we go. I think that's very conclusive. And yeah, thank you. I think I've got my doubts a little bit sorted out, if you know what I mean. Because I'm one of these little guys that tries to obviously preserve whatever I can pass on to my next generation. And then I'm thinking, right, we are living in a digital world. I need to go on the markets. I need to do something with Bitcoin. Definitely, I need to do something with Bitcoin. Maybe S&P 500 and whatever. Hold on a minute. There's this historical value out there that always been proved right, sort of, mainly gold and silver. And maybe I should go into that as well a little bit because I want to be safe. If this CBDC is coming, I want to, I'm not saying I want to exit the system, but I want to have some cards up my sleeve that I can play along with the system, you know. So yeah, that really confirms, I think, a little bit that precious metals are going to do what precious metals do, and Bitcoin is going to do what Bitcoin thinks it's
Yeah,
going to do.
I think the way I think the way to think of it is like I said, like gold and silver is God's money. It's got thousands of years of back testing, right? It's proven, and central banks are not just going to decide one day to throw it in the sea. And even
Yeah,
if we move into some completely digital realm, ultimately they probably will still end up backing whatever the digital thing of the future is by the gold in their vaults. They're not going to give that up. They're not going to decide all of a sudden that's worthless and throwing it away. So I genuinely believe gold and silver have their place. And that's why I am not in this camp of Bitcoiners that's like Bitcoin only and gold is worthless and Bitcoin's going to replace gold. Like I think they're two
yeah,
completely different
yeah,
animals. I definitely want to hold both. And like Bitcoin is just a completely different thing, right? Gold is the best money that humanity has ever discovered, but Bitcoin is created. It was created to have improvements on gold, which was the best money ever discovered. So Bitcoin is now the best money ever invented or ever created. And I don't see the need to have a tribalism about it. I don't see the need to say, oh, gold or Bitcoin. I don't see why you can't hold both. I think they definitely both have their place. I think,
yeah,
as Cobra touched on earlier on, you know, if we end up in this situation where there's no internet, then you're definitely going to want to have some precious metals. And
yeah,
if we do manage to have some internet, then you're probably going to want some Bitcoin as well, right? That's just how I see
exactly.
it. There's nothing else in terms of like certainly owning precious metals is going to be able to increase your wealth over the decade. I'm sure of that. But I'm pretty sure that Bitcoin is a faster horse than gold. And so I want to have some allocation to Bitcoin. I think the only incorrect allocation to Bitcoin is zero. And
Yeah,
as this technology, it goes back to our conversation earlier when we were saying about 100 trillion is the target for Bitcoin, and I think we can get there. And as and when we get there, who knows what the price is going to be? It's going to be it's going to be in the millions of dollars per coin. That might sound insane to many people, but a few years
hmm,
ago, 20, 40, $60,000 Bitcoin sounded insane. Before that, $1,000 Bitcoin sounded insane. Before
yeah,
that, $100 Bitcoin sounded insane.
exactly.
And I just think like you've got to kind of separate the two. I think I don't think it necessarily needs to be the same thing. Like you can have gold and gold has its purpose. Like I said, central banks are buying gold and they're not going to throw it away. And Bitcoin has its purpose as well because this is the first opportunity humanity has to have a decentralized, uncensorable, unconfiscatable, totally immutable proof of work instead of proof of war system. And
Brilliant.
therefore I don't see the point in not holding both. Like I think I want both, and
Yeah,
I'm going to continue to play that as my hand. Like that's like you said about having cards up your sleeves. Like I think having some Bitcoin on a cold wallet, having some gold and some silver, a bunch of other assets just in case they don't end
yeah,
up confiscating everything, right? Like that's how I play it, right? I own some
yeah.
property and a few other things, and that's all you can really do, right? And the rest of it is kind of, it's up to destiny.
Right. So, long story short, we need to be traditional, sort of, in gold and silver, but we also need to be modern in networking, and also we need to be in Bitcoin and all other stuff.
I've
Brilliant.
Can I
always,
can I show you something, Darth, which will make you laugh in a fun way to show the melding of both worlds? So
Right.
there's some coins I put in the auction which hold actual cryptocurrency on them as well. So they have melded the precious metal with the crypto. So you get your coin and it
Yeah.
holds a certain amount in a code of Bitcoin or Ether. So even the mints and technology are joining forces and doing things. Look at modern warfare here. They've got a
Yeah.
5 gram gold solid piece of gold. And with
Yeah.
it, you get a code which puts you in the digital world and will give you a gold charm around your gun. So even down to the people who deal with precious metals and the people who deal with the digital sides, they're joining together. They're not separating. They're
Yeah.
they're incorporating both sides of it beautifully. I think absolutely beautifully.
So, so then that means all I need to do is follow your channel, Camel channel, and the CPM for observations and psychological and philosophical thoughts, and I should be okay.
I think use CPM's words. I think use CPM's classic line. Do your own research.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I get that, which
Cool
is fair
beans.
enough. Right.
Cool beans, guys. I need to wrap this up because we've gone over 2 hours. But very quickly, I just want to give. Does anyone want to ask anyone anything? Cobra, do you want to say anything?
I'm going to say number one to Camel. Bro, our discussions are unbelievable. I absolutely love them. I would love to sit down with a pint with you with a pint and just chat. But I think our conversations will make this series that CPM is putting on absolutely brilliant. One piece of advice I've got for you, bro, and it's very, very important in the investment world, is please keep up with the memes that you put on at the beginning of your videos because they have me in absolute hysterics. I think they are absolutely brilliant. Don't ever stop that. It puts me in a good mood before I watch your channel.
That's
Darth,
hilarious.
Darth, I think thank you so much, bro, because you brought questions in which has, and this is what I try and do with Camel, is I bring questions in. I may even know the answer sometimes, but I want our listeners to get as much information as they can. And some of your questions were absolutely brilliant with that. And CPM, brother, thank you for hosting the whole thing. I think this whole podcasty type YouTube channel video is absolutely amazing for people to listen to. And so much information is in 2 hours each time, and there's so much more to come.
Cool beans, Darth. Last words, mate.
Last words. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to finish.
Keep it brief and talk up.
But this really was great. It's a lot of information, even for me, and I think for all of us to digest. I think it's a start. Oh, here we go. I think this is a start of a beautiful friendship. You know that movie, right? And I think it all goes well when precious metals and finance and philosophy all comes together for the benefit of a public information. That's what we all are trying to do. CPM, thank you so much for hosting this. This will be very valuable, I think, and people will look back at this with a whole lot of respect and so on, you know. And I want to just say thank you to Cobra and to Camel Finance. Guys, keep doing what you're doing because we have the chance with you guys to get our heads out of the clouds. Thank you.
Cool beans, Camel.
Yeah, Darth, nice to meet you for the first time, if only virtually. I wish you all the best in your investing journey, and I hope that you will look into Bitcoin a little bit more. I know you've got the precious metals dialed, and that's really positive and encouraging to see. So hopefully you can get a better allocation to Bitcoin and ride this thing into the future. Cobra, as always, brother, massive pleasure to speak
Brilliant.
to you. Struggling to find the words, but just fantastic to hear another man that is so switched on to the current situation and potentially the future that we could be looking down, albeit with a positive tone and doing what we can to survive the system. CPM, thank you for having me. This is one of my favorite things to do now. So really appreciate it as always. And yeah, I guess overall, right, Bitcoin's going to do Bitcoin things and gold is going to do gold things. And hopefully we can get out the end of this decade in one piece.
Wicked, guys. Thank you very much. What I will say this again. From my point of view, there's some stuff that's been. Oh dear, what happened to Darth?
It ran off.
Darth's video just fell over. Yeah, I think this is proving to be a fantastic go-to in the UK, especially series to continue with. I can't thank you guys enough. One thing I do learn and I love is just observing the conversation. You guys just add so much value that if people was to actually play back some of the clips within this conversation, then they will get exactly what's going on and hopefully open people's minds up to really educate and go down and look after themselves, because time and energy that we really rapidly put out there and put into trying to earn money, we can try and make that work for us and look after each other and look after our loved ones, which is why we all probably exist half the time. That said, I will say, I'm going to lighten up a little bit. My backdrop is probably the best. And
Yes.
Excuse me.
yeah, I will put out, come on, guys, you need to really improve stuff. There we go.
Probably we record this just after my auction and I'm dead.
Exactly. Very briefly, before I go to the toilet, and I'll let you have a very quickly chat about this, I would personally like to say thank you so much, Camel, especially Camel, Cobra. You're a great mate, dude. I really would say this. And for the other people that supported me, because I am sitting at 548 subscribers.
Ooh.
Let's go.
Which-
Come on.
Ew.
Let's do this.
Which is ridiculous, because as anyone that follows my channel knows, that I really didn't think I would get to 10. Now, now thanks to everybody, I'm now at 548. So I've now got to, which I've been advertising, once I get to 500 subscribers, I would do this giveaway.
Amazing.
I know, which
Absolutely.
everyone knows what I've been doing, and I'm really proud of what I did. It proves a point. It proves a lot of what's been spoken about today.
Tell them what you've done, because there will be listeners who won't know.
Anyone that hasn't
Exactly.
Yeah, anyone that hasn't done, back on, I believe it was the 10th, 11th, 12th of October last year, I was beginning to think to myself, oh, what if I ever get to 500 subscribers? What, it'd be really nice to give back a little bit. And so I purchased £100 worth of Bitcoin at that time. And I thought, and I know Cobra knew about this because I spoke to you, dude. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do, and we'll see where it goes. Little did I know, I thought that I wouldn't personally see 500 subscribers on my channel probably for another 12 months, if I'm brutally honest. And I always thought to myself, oh, I wonder what that, hopefully, if Bitcoin does Bitcoin things, I've got a lot of passion about it. That will be a serious investment to actually, hopefully, as I post updates on how it's getting on, people might just look at what's going on. And yeah, it's still sitting pretty. I think it's sitting at about £243 at the moment, which is 143%, obviously, up on the initial investment. You can't argue that. It's ridiculous.
Hey ho.
So yeah, exactly. Camel's laughing.
Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things. We love
Exactly. So you know, now I'm at that position, and thanks to Camel, Cobra Stacker, Camel, especially, you've been really shouting it out. Now I'm in that predicament. Damn, I need to come up with something to give that away. So I'm going to have a really good, serious think about that. How
I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
how
same.
I can how I can give that away. I've got an amazing idea for 1,000. That blow everyone's mind away, really.
Don't worry, I'll send you my bank account or whatever. It's fine.
Well, yeah, it's going to have to be peer to peer. It's got to be Bitcoin to Bitcoin. There's no transaction. There's no. I'm not doing it as a monetary value. It's got to be peer to peer. So, but we'll come up with some answers next. I'm talking too much. But next, funny enough, it's quite ironic, really, because my next Whiskey Wednesday is exactly to the day when I started my YouTube channel, and it makes me a year old.
Whoa,
As it,
congratulations. Happy
Okay.
birthday.
yeah,
Okay.
and I've hit that 500 before that, which is really cool. I've been chatting to Cobra. We're going to do a live on
Yep.
Cobra's going to do a live for me, which is really cool. And I've got between now and then to come up with an idea of how I'm going to give this away. So I can't thank you enough. And this, I think I finally found an outlet for possibly bringing the greater good of the community out there in the UK. And having you guys on has been very, very special. I learned so much. So thank you very much.
Amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Right. It's an absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. So keep tuned. We're going to do this. Hopefully you'll see another whiskey and rum series in the next 3 weeks, maybe in 3 weeks' time. And we keep it going. Thank you very much, Dar, for coming along.
I just want to say I was really privileged.
Let me just
really honored.
finish
Thank
1
you.
second, and you guys can just say your parting things. I'm going to be doing a video with a recording with Darth, because Darth has an amazing story to tell. I'm really looking forward to doing that, and I'm just going to give you guys just very 5 seconds just to say, where can people see you, where can they find you, and yeah, advertise your space, dudes. Go for it.
Camel, you go first.
You can find me at Camel Finance on YouTube. And if you want some extra precious metal alpha, then consider becoming a level 3 member. Otherwise, then I give away plenty of value for free, and I will continue to do so on the main channel. So, yep, that's me.
Okay, guys, Cobra Stacker on YouTube. So I put out videos all the time about beautiful pieces of gold and silver that I managed to get hold of. And every Friday I have an auction where I sell gold and silver, everything from straight up small bullion to really expensive premium pieces. And if you join that, you can bid on the stuff, and you'll also be put into a Telegram group where I give away loads of silver every single week and some amazing deals. So please come and join me on that.
Yeah, so you can find me on Darth Precious Metals. Darth, purely because I think I have my own opinion of how you can do just a little bit better, just a little bit with precious metals. So if you want to know a little bit of a history about a premium coin, a little bit of history about what silver's been doing, gold's been doing, have a look. Some things just might be interesting. Thank you.
We're good.
You.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you very much, guys. See you all next time.